Look at that, 10:30 on the dot, right on time. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it to the end of another work and school week. This is Weather Extra. Been with you all week, a long week for me, with a couple of noon shows, but always happy to do this. And we've got some changes to the forecast, mainly regarding the threat for strong to severe storms. And that's going to be coming in for Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday. The higher confidence in the threat for strong to severe storms, at least for parts of the Tennessee Valley. The thing that we're kind of going back and forth on is the exact timing. It definitely looks to be later in the day on Saturday. We're just looking at some of the different model data that have some variation on that actual arrival time of the threat for strong to severe storms. So something we're continuing to monitor, and we will give you plenty of updates, of course, as we always do, not just here on Weather Extra, but on air, online, 48 Weather app, all of our Facebook pages, the social media. But really enjoyed doing these Weather Extras with you through the week. Here we go. Outside right now in beautiful Decatur, we're actually seeing more breaks in the clouds today than we've seen compared to the past several days. Wednesday and Thursday, they were kind of mostly cloudy, overcast type days. Still very warm, and today we are warming up kind of shockingly fast. We're at 82 already in Decatur. Shows you what a little bit of sunshine. I'm going to go out on a limb and say if we see the clouds move out, especially in the shoals, you might see 90 degrees today, and that would be the first 90-degree day of 2025 anywhere across North Alabama and parts of Middle Tennessee. So just wanted to show you some of the clouds to start off. We're going to go over to the radar now. Things are quiet. I don't see any rainfall. We had a few very isolated sprinkles down towards Smith Lake early this morning. We're talking between 4:30 and 5 a.m. Those are for you very early risers that join Haley and I at the 4:30 hour. But things are dry now. We've got a lot of rain to our north, and we've got a severe weather threat still developing off to our west and northwest. Another active day. This is the third consecutive day of potential severe weather across parts of the country. We did have a tornado warning yesterday evening just for extreme northwest Alabama, the westernmost half of Lauderdale County, right there on the river, where if you look at the state outlines, it's that little sliver, basically you in Waterloo, a lot of county roads out there, a lot of trees too. And the Weather Service in Huntsville is actually conducting a survey today based on that tornado warning. I know we had trees down, not sure if that was strong winds or if that was actually related to a potential tornado. We will share that information, but the Weather Service in Huntsville is actually going to conduct the survey in parts of northeast Mississippi and even a portion of Tennessee there, just because they're helping out the Weather Service office in Memphis. That's where the two of them overlap, and just the driving distance from Huntsville, to that part of the state is a little closer than the folks in Memphis coming down and doing it. So some good teamwork there between the Weather Service offices, but we will let you know exactly what they find likely during our evening newscast. But that same boundary, you've got the cold air kind of combating the warmer air from the south coming up from the Gulf there. A lot of moisture. You could feel the humidity, but this is also where that long duration potential flooding event is still continuing to unfold. If you saw some of the video, maybe from parts of Kentucky yesterday, they've seen a ton of rain, and they've got more rain on the radar at this time, and that will continue as we go through the evening. So let's talk about the setup. This is not for today. We're not anticipating any form of strong to severe storms today. Everything will remain to our west. But finally, that area of high pressure that's kind of been keeping us on the easternmost edge of that severe weather threat, that ridge of high pressure starts to break down. And what that allows to do is that boundary is actually going to start moving. It's not going to be stationary as we go through the day tomorrow. And this is a strong cold front. And anytime you get a cold front here in the spring months, April, March in particular, and we have a threat of seeing some severe storms. And that's kind of what we're looking at here, just based on some of the model data, some of the atmospheric ingredients, everything we have in play. We've got a lot of warmth, we've got the south wind, we've got the humidity. Temperatures tomorrow will still be in the mid-80s, just kind of setting the stage to support those strong to severe storms coming in. Now, this is going to be Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday. As of right now, I really think the greatest threat of severe storms is going to be along and west of I-65 into parts of middle and west Tennessee, all across northern Mississippi, and into parts of Arkansas too. And if you live in northwest Alabama, you're probably like, hey, tap out. We're enough already. But this should be our last gasp here. At least it looks like we're dry for 7 days after this. And we've been watching this system as well as the storm chances all through this past week. But it does look like we could see not only damaging wind gusts, could see some large hail potentially, frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. And there is a tornado threat, but I think these would be more of the isolated, brief spin-up variety. I don't think we're going to have supercells here. This is probably going to be more linear in nature, kind of that squall line of storms coming in. So that's the threat. And then as we move from west to east with that line of storms, as we go through late Saturday night into Sunday morning, I think we'll see a weakening trend with those storms. And then once it crosses over east of I-65, I think it will kind of transition into maybe some gusty winds, lightning, but more of a heavy rain and flooding threat. Now, Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis, you might know, he has at a weather conference, a hurricane conference down there in Texas. He was sending me some of the slides and presentations yesterday. He'll have a lot more information on that. I know he was recording specific videos just to show on these weather extras, so he'll have some hot new content coming in for you guys likely next week. But he actually went ahead and logged into our weather computers from Texas, and he put together this timeline graphic, and I agree with it. Now, this is probably the biggest question mark with the forecast as of right now, is the exact onset of potential strong to severe storms. Most of the models are trending a little later. The one I showed this morning kind of had things moving into northwest Alabama around 5 o'clock. And there could be that earlier shift, but that was just one model run, something we're watching. But arriving in parts of far northwest Alabama up until about I-65, anywhere from 10 to about 3 a.m. So that will be the duration of your severe weather threat as of right now. This is 10:30 Friday morning, and we're talking tomorrow night. So we'll get new model data, update you on that. And then the yellow area from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. as those lines move through. A general weakening trend is expected, but still threats of heavy rain and gusty winds. So we'll let you know if we make any changes to that timeline graphic, just kind of show it more graphically here. You know, love a good X and Y axis here, just kind of nerding out with some math. But rain storm chances, basically the later you go in the day, the better chance you have of not only seeing strong to severe storms, but just rainfall in general. So if you have plans tomorrow, and they happen to be outside, or even just running errands, it's not fun to drive around when you got heavy rain and a threat for strong storms. Earlier in the day is better. Kind of just use that as your guideline for planning your Saturday, and then later in the evening on Sunday is the better option. But I know I kind of shut down on Sunday night, just time to start preparing for another work week for me. Early bedtimes on Sunday, that's always a thing. I know we got a lot of basketball to watch this weekend. That's probably going to be the Saturday plan. That's what we're looking at. All right, so hour by hour forecast for today. Notice how this model really breaks up the clouds. And if we see that clearing, we see that sunshine with the south wind, if you get even partly cloudy skies, I think you've got a shot at maybe 90 degrees out in parts of northwest Alabama. Notice it is bringing in a little bit of convection for areas off to our west. And again, that's where the boundary is, but much farther west is where the higher threat of severe storms is today. Another long day, afternoon, evening for parts of Arkansas. They're expecting probably the worst of the weather across the country today, and you got to be thinking of them. This has been a brutal week for them, and it's just been relentless as far as the severe threat, the tornado threat, and of course that flooding on top of it. People want to get their cleanup efforts underway, and you're just dealing with heavy rain and more rounds of storms too. So this is midnight now. Storms still well off to our north and west, and it looks like they continue to track more northeasterly, and that would keep things mainly to our north and into Tennessee. We'll have the clouds pushing in overnight, 7 o'clock. Temperatures on Saturday morning could be in the 70s, low to mid 70s like we saw this morning, like we saw yesterday morning. Another day with clearing showing up on some of the model data here, and that means warmer temperatures will be probably in the mid to upper 80s. Now, this is that early arrival model. This is the graph model that we use. It's usually the most common we show. It usually has a good grasp on at least how things are going to look on the radar. The one thing I feel like it does struggle with a little bit is that arrival time. And I think this is a little early, but potentially for you in northeast Mississippi, northwest Alabama, parts of west and middle Tennessee, this could be that late afternoon, early evening type arrival time. And of course, we would shift that timeline if this trend continues. But looking at that line of storms coming in, but it's probably not going to be that early convection where we see the more significant threat of strong to severe storms. It's probably going to be that bigger glob, put it technically, where you see the more widespread coverage. But this all comes marching through late Saturday night, overnight into Sunday morning. Not only is it another weekend event, believe me, it is just as exhausting for you as it is for us to cover these. Feels like almost every weekend as of late that we've had a threat of severe storms, but we are going with that first alert weather day, and things will just kind of continue to move from west to east as we go through the overnight hours. This is now 3:30. We still have the threat for damaging winds, large hail, potential spin-up tornadoes, and then into Sunday morning for you folks that do get up early over the weekend, 7 a.m. Maybe you're getting ready for church worship services. Still dealing with that heavy rain, potential flooding threat. Could be a lot of water over the roads too, and we'll update you on any flooding, anything like that, of course. We go into noon now on Sunday, and things are starting to track off into parts of Georgia. Maybe some lingering showers through the late afternoon and evening, but certainly more dry hours for your weekend earlier in the day on Saturday, and then the later you go in the day on Sunday, and it's going to be a fairly active weekend. Then we go into Monday. Clouds will eventually start to push out here. Checking some temperatures right now, 80 in the Shoals, 81 Decatur, 82 in Limestone County, Athens, and then we've got 80 from Meridianville out to Huntsville, upper 70s on Sand Mountain. Breezy day today. Can't call it windy. We'll call it breezy. South wind about 10 to 15. See some wind gusts about 20 to 30 miles per hour. But there's the rest of your afternoon. Breaks in the clouds, warming into the mid to upper 80s. I believe the record high for Huntsville today is 89. I don't think we'll get that today, but it's still impressively warm here for early April. Tennessee Valley Living Watchers. It starts at 11 with Peyton Walker. They've got a great Friday show, a lot of fun elements. They are live at Toyota Field out at the ballpark for the Trash Panda home opener. 6:35 first pitch. Taking on our neighbors to the east, the Chattanooga Lookouts. Not a Lookout fan, but I always did like their hat and their logo, the C with the two little eyeballs in it. I always thought that was new. Chattanooga's a cool place, but I can't root for them because we got our team. We got the Trash Pandas. It's a Friday. Go get you a hot dog, some peanuts, and we get fireworks, win or lose. Hopefully, though, chalking up that first win of the season right here at home in front of our loyal fan base, too. Keep talking about the threat for strong to severe storms. That's the reason for the 48 first alert weather day, but we're going to see a lot of rain, too, coming with that storm threat Saturday night, overnight into Sunday. Models are consistently putting out 1 to 2 inches of rain. Could see upwards of 3 inches of rain, too, especially if that line of storm starts to slow down a bit as it moves across the area. So that is a ton of rainfall. I either have to cut my grass today or do it tomorrow morning. Both days it'll be incredibly hot and humid, so I'll be sweating out there. But I do want to get it done before we see 1 to 2 inches of rain, because even though Monday and Tuesday are cooler and dry, my grass, it stays wet for several days after a rain event of the 1 to 2 inch magnitude. But first alert weather day Saturday, that starts to develop really later in the day. So the early part of the day, warm, breezy, humid, 85, partly mostly cloudy. Showers and storms through the morning hours, potentially into early afternoon there on Sunday. So that's a look at your weekend. The clicker, it's always just so hit and miss here. Forecast for tonight, dropping down to 68. We're mostly cloudy, warm, muggy, bit on the breezy side. Probably have some winds about 10 to 15 overnight tonight. There's your Saturday, and you can see the early part of the day is dry. Temperatures warming up into the 80s. South wind kicks in, a lot of humidity, all that fuel for the showers and storms. Looking at strong storms coming in later tomorrow evening. So last but not least, this is what you all wait for. You waited 14 minutes for it, but here's your 10-day forecast. 86 before the storms. Strong to severe storms possible, damaging winds, large hail, heavy rainfall, even a threat for isolated brief tornadoes coming Saturday night into Sunday morning. Should see that weakening trend, watching out for the flooding threat through the day on Sunday. And look at the temperature drop. Cold front does its job, not only as the trigger for the storms, but it ushers in that cooler, drier air. You'll notice the humidity is going to be a lot lower. It's actually pretty pleasant. I know some of you like the warmer temperatures. Nothing wrong with Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday morning, got a low at 37. Depends on the cloud cover and how much wind we have. Potentially some of you in the higher elevations, sheltered areas Could see some areas of frost maybe popping up. So think of your plants outside. Just 60 on Tuesday, but a mostly sunny day. 68 Wednesday, and then that warm up starts to kick back in as we go into the end of next work and school week and the following weekend. And next weekend is Masters weekend for all the golf fans too. Looks beautiful too. Gorgeous weather here in the Tennessee Valley. So stay weather alert. Again, I'll have updates on the Live from the Ballpark TVL show, and I'll be on our newscast at noon with Gina Benitez. But have a fun and safe weekend. Thanks for hanging out with us all week on Weather Extra. Meteorologist Chelsea Aaron will be in this afternoon and evening, and she'll do her Weather Extra at 9:30 tonight. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay weather aware, and look for updates regarding your First Alert Weather Day Saturday. I'm out of here after the noon newscast. Start my weekend. Have a good one, guys.